Hi there, welcome to today's painting tutorial. In this episode, we are going to paint a starfish with acrylic paints. So let's get started. And if you want to paint along with me, grab a free link to the sketch in the description below. And there you can also find the colors and the brushes that I'm going to be using. So let's start with our darkest values. And I'm going to start with a size 0 round brush. And then I'm going to pick up some of this burnt umber color, and I want to use that to start putting in some shadows and some dark values. So let's work one section at a time. So we'll do this section over here on the right. So I'll put in a dark brown, and then let's quickly transition that into a lighter brown with some of this burnt sienna, which is a pretty warm color of brown. It's got a lot of yellow in it. And then I'm going to pick up this Terra Cotta orange color, which is quite a bit brighter and more vibrant. Start adding that in. And this kind of variation of color is going to help us get a lot of depth and realism. So then let's pick up this beige color and start putting that in as well. This is going to be a nice transition. And then as we get to the center of the leg, let's pick up some white and see if that can create a lighter value. Okay, I'm going to spray the paints so that we get a little bit more of a blended effect. This helps the acrylic paint to blend easier just because it tends to dry so quickly. Then I'm going to pick up this burnt sienna color, sort of make a little bit of a shadow there. Then I'll pick up Terra Cotta. Okay, so now let's do this area here. So I'll continue with this dark shadow color of the burnt umber. Let's put that in. And then I'll pick up the burnt sienna. And I'm allowing these colors to mix together wet on wet. Now I'm going to pick up the Terra Cotta, which is kind of an orangey shade. Start feathering that down. Okay, let's bring that around this edge here. And I'll pick up a little bit of this burnt sienna just to add a little bit more of a shadow in that corner. Then let's pick up some beige. Start transitioning to a lighter value. Then I'll pick up some white and then blend that out. Okay, so now let's work on this area here. So that's going to be a little bit less of a shadow there. So I'm just going to use a little bit lighter value of brown. Let's pick up the burnt sienna. Start feathering that in. Okay, and you could switch brushes here if you wanted to. I might actually do that so that I can get a little bit more coverage. So I'm going to switch to a size 6 filbert brush. So pick up the burnt sienna, start feathering that up, and then pick up that orange, come around, then go around the outside edge. While it's still wet, pick up some of this beige color, and I'm going to mix it in with the Terra Cotta so we get a little bit more of a subtle transition. And then pick up some of this beige. Okay, so now let's work on this side here. So I'll take some of the burnt sienna for a shadow, just mostly around the edges. And then pick up some of the Terra Cotta, go around the edge there. Okay, and then let's pick up some of this beige color and feather that in. It's working nicely, wet on wet. And then I'll pick up a little bit of the white and then try to put that as a little bit of a highlight. Okay, and then let's do this one here. So we'll grab the darker brown, go around the edge, pick up some burnt sienna, the Terra Cotta. Try to get a crisp edge around the outside. It can be a little tricky to do with acrylic paint. Sometimes you just need to add more paint on the brush. Then I'm picking up some white and feathering that in. Okay, so now let's switch back to a 0 round brush. And I want this area to be defined here. So I'm going to take some burnt sienna and go around the outer edge. Then I'm going to pick up some white paint. See if I can feather that towards the center. I'll do that on this side, darker color, and then a lighter shade. Then a little bit of white in the center. Okay, and we'll continue with that same pattern. And you can pick up a little bit more brown, darker brown, if you need a little bit more contrast right in that center there. It'll help give it a little bit more definition. And then grab the burnt sienna, go around the outside edge, and then pick up some of the orange and some beige, and then some white. Okay, I'll take beige and put that around here, and then white, and then beige, and then some white. Okay, so that's a good first layer of the starfish. And you can go back at this point and sort of clean up any edges. I think this area here needs to be cleaned up. And also look for places where you might need a second layer of paint. Sometimes the acrylic paint can look a little bit streaky if you have too much water. And if that happens, you just have to go over it with a second layer, and then it can look cleaner. So we'll add some more shadow color back in there. Okay, but when you do your second layers, try not to cover up too much of the blending that you've done and the nice transitions that you've made. Sort of a balance there. Okay, so I'm just refining and going back, adding some dark values where we lost a little bit of that contrast. Okay, so now the next step is going to be adding some dots and some texture on top of the starfish, and also adding some of these pastel colors. So to do that, I'm going to switch brushes. This is a size 0 round brush, but it's kind of a brush that is shortened. And you can also wait until this layer has dried completely before doing this step. But I'm going to go ahead and start with that. So I'm going to mix a light pink color first. Grab some white and some light pink. And then let's start putting some little dots around the edge. Okay, and try to make it a little bit random as well. You don't want it to be too perfect. And I'm going to come around the bottom. You can see how that brush just really easily makes these nice round dots without a lot of effort. If your brush has a pointed tip, it's going to be a lot harder to get these small dots. Okay, so now let's add some over on the other side. Trying to vary the shape. Okay, and then I want some larger, almost yellow dots to go down this way. So let's take some of this Terra Cotta and add some white to it and see how that looks. Okay, so that's doesn't show up very well, but I'm going to stick with this. And then we can go around it later and sort of add some shading to make it stand out. Okay, and then so up here, let's take some lighter paint, almost a white color. Start adding that along this area. And think about perspective, so the further you go out, the smaller your dots are going to be. And they're going to be larger as you come in. And then I'm going to put some large white dots at this center point here. Okay, and then I'm going to keep adding some white dots going out. Let's do the same for this one. Okay, and then I'm going to take some, let's take some pink and start putting in some smaller dots along the edges. Trying to make it random. So you're going to think about how the lighter paint is going to show up on top of a darker paint, but it won't show up on top of a lighter paint. So something to keep in mind. And then these dots get really tiny even in the center here, so you can add some really tiny dots there. It's going to give it a really nice texture. Okay, so now let's go back and try to add, I'm going to grab a size 0 and let's try to add some contrast to some of these circles. So I'm doing that with a burnt sienna. And I'm just using this color to make a shadow around some of these circles that we made. Okay, I just want them to stand out, create texture, and look a little bit three-dimensional. Okay, and you can take your time with this. Go ahead and pause the video if you'd like and really take your time to get some nice detail and nice shadows. Okay, so now let's start adding some color. So I'm gonna take some of this purplish gray color and let's start putting that in. So I'm gonna use that to add some dots. And think about where the color is going to be able to show up. Okay, and that's just a nice color that's going to give us some gray tones that we need in the piece. Okay, I'm going to switch back to the size 0 round, and then let's try to add some of this really bright, beautiful teal color. So I'm going to try to add that around the center of the starfish. I use it to go around some of these white circles. I can put some on some of these other sort of circles that are standing out. It's just going to give it a nice variety of color. Okay, and then let's go ahead and put some final highlights in. So let's take some white paint, and you could go on top of these little dots that you made with the white paint. That's going to make it appear a little bit more three-dimensional and make it stand out a little bit more. Okay, and I think we will call this painting complete. Thank you so much for painting along with me. Like and subscribe for more painting tutorials. Grab your free guide in the description below, and we'll see you in the next video. Bye.